Hello everyone. So in the last video we talked about the envelope generator and how to make our tone more dynamic. And in this video I'd like to talk about a further possibility to make our tone even more dynamic. And that is basically the patch window. And the patch window offers us what I think one can call a low frequency oscillator, meaning that it offers us the possibility to generate a waveform at a rather low frequency to modulate these 6 values. So with the patch window we can basically apply further modulation to the pitch of our tone, or only the pitch of our first oscillator or the pitch of our second oscillator, to the pulse width of our first oscillator. Just a quick reminder, the pulse width is basically this knob changing the width of our square or pulse. We can modulate the cutoff frequency of our filter, and we can modulate the amplitude of our tone in general. And we can do so simply by connecting these waveforms to the values. So if we use this sawtooth wave and connect it to our amplitude, it will now modulate our tone. And if we test it, we will see and hear that it basically does nothing, and that's because it's set to the 0 value. We have to increase it, and this now means that the modulation applies to about 50% to our amplitude. And if we test it out now, we can see and hear that we have this very slow pulsing sound. And this basically is caused by our waveform, which will modulate our amplitude in such a way that it will start at its highest value, then slightly decrease, and then jump back up to its highest value. And we can increase the frequency of our waveform with this knob, the MG frequency. MG stands for modulation generator, and if we increase it, the pulsing sound will get faster. And we can increase the amount of modulation to its highest strength, and now the modulation will be even stronger. We can also invert our waveform. Right now it starts with its highest value and decreases, and if we invert it by pushing the knob in the other direction, it will now start with its lowest value and increase till it reaches its highest value, and then jump down to its lowest value again. So now it will sound and look like this. Maybe to make this more clear, let's lower the frequency and increase the amount of modulation. And let's push it in the other direction. And I think that's rather self-explanatory. Yeah, and we can apply this waveform to all the other values. We can apply it to our filter. So now we have some pulsing to our filter. We can apply it to the pulse width. and to the pitch. And I think I don't have to show everything. It's rather self-explanatory, I think. There's one specialty here. We have all these waveforms, and we have S and H, and this is basically some kind of random number generator. It will, if we connect this, we will now get random values that modulate either of these knobs. And I think it becomes clear if we modulate our pitch randomly. Let's increase the frequency, and now it will basically generate this old movie computer sound. And it does so by applying random values to our pitch. We can also apply our envelope generator to these knobs. And one might ask, what's that good for? We already have the option to apply it via these knobs, but the patch window gives us more options. We can now also modulate only the pitch of our first oscillator, or only the pitch of our second oscillator, or the pulse width. So now we have more options for our envelope generator. And then the last option is the waveform of our second oscillator. We can use this to modulate these 6 values. And there's one specialty or one difference here. It will actually start here at this value. So we can't invert the waveform of the second oscillator. And I think it will become clear if we now just connect it to our VCA, and it will now do nothing because the value is 0, and we can increase it all the way up to 100%, and now it will use the waveform of our second oscillator. And it will use this frequency right here. So this won't do anything for the second, or for this option. Maybe let's try something out. Let's use a triangle wave, and let's lower the frequency a little. And now we should get this wobbly bass sound. And as you can see and hear, this is actually quite powerful. We can use this to generate quite interesting tones, I think. Then there's this knob here, and this lets us synchronize our frequency to our beats per minute. And to see what it does, let's set it to the frequency to the standard value and turn this on. And let's say we use a sawtooth wave on our amplitude. And if we now play it, it should take 4 steps of our sequencer for one waveform or one sawtooth to complete. Maybe let's take a look at our sequencer to get this more. No, that's wrong. Let's just have one continuous C note playing, and set it all to legato. And if you don't know what this means, don't worry. I plan on making another video about the sequencer and what we can do with it. But for now, we basically just have one continuous note playing. And if we turn off our patch, which happens to be already turned off, and now play our tone, we have this continuous sawtooth wave playing, and if we apply this sawtooth wave of our modulator to the amplitude and have the bass frequency set and the beats per minute on, we should now have a pulsing sound which will pulse every 4 steps of our sequencer. And it doesn't do so because we have to increase the amount the modulation applies. So that's this, and I think that this is a rather powerful tool, as we can now generate tones that have some kind of vibrato. For example, if we use the triangle wave on our VCA and increase the frequency a little, we now have not vibrato, tremolo. Maybe play around a little more. And we can also apply this to the pitch to have a slight vibrato on our tone. Oh, and that's a bit too much for my taste. And this way we can generate some detuned tones. And I think that's basically it for the patch window. I hope that you were able to glean something from this video. If you have any questions or just some general feedback, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and see you with the next video. Bye.